Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Ascalise, the inventress. My business is Inventing A to Z. At Inventing A to Z, I work with clients to take their products from concept to fruition, from a napkin idea all the way to the marketplace and everything in between, the right way. If you want to contact me, email me, lisa@inventingatoz.com. My website, inventingatoz.com. Ascalise, the inventress, and welcome to the Inventress podcast. And every week I bring a more phenomenal person, usually women, because we are phenomenal. This week I'm bringing on a very, very good friend of mine, amazing woman, Sonia Armstead, producer, director, mother, wife, everything, girlfriend, sister, daughter, everything. Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And congratulations to you, because this is a big deal. I'm proud of you, because I remember when we first met and we were all grinding. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then all of a sudden, poof, you've got this wonderful podcast. You're giving people a platform, and I'm proud of you. So God bless you. And thank you for thinking of me.
Thank you. Why wouldn't I think of you, honey? You know, my thing is lifting each other up 2 hands at a time. Sometimes you got to use that foot. That's never changed.
All right. All right. I love that.
That's never changed. Motto. So back in the day when we started talking, it was, I've always brought products to QVC television and all of that stuff. And somehow we met through divine connection. We were talking about your frosting, but I also knew you were directing and producing. And I was just so enamored by you. And I still am.
As am I with you, my dear, because you're doing the darn thing too. So I think every now and then it's okay to do this and pat ourselves on the back, because we work hard, we love hard, and we manage to still keep standing and following our dreams and our passions. So we got to give it to ourselves every now and then.
So I want to talk about you, though. I want to talk about the incredible things you're doing. Of course, you produce, you direct, you produce a show, you produce many shows.
Yeah, well, it's funny because since the beginning of time, it's funny because I always start by saying a lot of people didn't know that back in the day when I was in middle school and high school, I was in this program called Minorities in Engineering. And the push was to get women into chemical and electrical and civil engineering. And so I was going to be that engineer sitting behind a desk, but I knew in my head, how am I going to tell my parents I'm going into the television industry or the media industry? But I had a teacher in high school who kept saying, go for it, girl, go for it, go for it. And so when I got to my senior year, I had to drop the bomb on my dad and say, listen, I'm not going to school for engineering. I won't be going to NJIT. I'll be going somewhere else. Not sure where, but somewhere else for television. Fast forward, it's always been something I wanted to do. Did some internships, did some volunteer work. And then my biggest internship was over at ABC with Regis and Kathy Lee. And ironically, years later, realized that one of the people who took me under her wing, which is a phenomenal woman, Dolores Gruelle Jackson, who took me under her wing and gave me such confidence, gave me such opportunity that I left there and all like, oh, I know I planted my feet in the right field. So I then ended up going to Fox Television, working on the morning show, actually working in their tape department first, and then segueing over into the morning show. And then for years, my life was getting up at 2 a.m, going to work at 3. You know how early news comes on. So that was my grind for a long, long time. Came up through the ranks and then went over and worked on the launch of the Food Network, which I don't talk about a lot. I don't know why I don't talk about it, but I went over there for the launch, stayed over there for a few years, and then went to launch another cable network called News Talk Television, and found my way back at Fox. And then after almost 20 years in the business, my business partner, her name is Rochelle Brown, we just decided we're working pretty hard. Let's work hard for ourselves and let's see what happens. Because at the end of the day, we've got our background, we've got our credentials, we know how to make good television. Let's do it for ourselves. And if not, I'll be getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning again, So that's pretty much the journey of how it started. And fast forward, Powerhouse Productions was born almost 20 years ago now. And we can pick and choose the clients we want to work with, and then we can grab the bull by the horn and do what we want to do.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of those clients that you work with, but I also want to talk about not coincidence, but divine connection, okay? Because
Yes.
there's so much that has happened between us through the years. So you came to my office in Freehold, New Jersey.
Yes.
And we're talking about how you started your internship, right? At ABC, I believe, right? It was
Yes,
ABC when
yes.
you started your internship. And we just started talking. And you said, I was this person I loved and I really adored, or whatever you said, and I will never forget her. I will never forget this person who gave me my opportunity to start in business. And you actually said also, she inspired you to go into production. Am I correct?
Correct. It's the strangest thing, because when you're an intern, you do everything. You're answering the phones, you're running an errand, but primarily you're answering and fielding a lot of calls. You're fielding a lot of viewership calls. And then I went over to her, and it's funny because I say she's had 100 interns probably come through her office, but I went over to her and I said, I'm not sure if answering the phones, I think I have a good voice and I have manners on the phone, but I'm not sure if answering the phone saying, good morning, the morning show is really what I want to do. What else can I learn here? So they started me getting a chance to do some research. And at the time, ABC had a library down the road. They would put me in a car and I'd go do research. I'm dating myself. Microfiche, I'd bring the information back on. And then I said to her, well, she said, I want you to sit in and watch some of the things I do. And I go, well, what's a pre-interview? She let me do my first fashion pre-interview. And I was enamored. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I got a chance to talk to a designer about the new sandal wear that's coming out this summer. And I was just blown away. And then a couple of weeks later, and she listened in to make sure I asked the right questions and helped set up the segment. Then a couple of weeks later, she goes, the comedian Sinbad's going to be on our show, and I'm going to give you a chance to do a pre-interview. Well, I almost passed out. I couldn't believe it. And she let me pre-interview Sinbad. And I was shaken from the moment she told me. I was home on the bus on my way home with a stomachache, like, I can't believe this is happening. And was blown away. So she let me get this opportunity to talk to him on the phone. And I got a gift of gab. I mean, I joke and say I'm the quiet one in my family, but I have a gift of gab, and I got a chance to talk to him. And he was a normal person. And I think that's the big takeaway. They're just like you and I. They get up in the morning, they have great days, they have cranky days, they're grinding for their next gig. And I can never thank her enough. And ironically, I was in your office that day just talking about, I got this idea about this icing I've done and everybody loves it, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking about this woman at ABC, and I said, oh yeah, her name is Dolores. And you're like, Dolores? I know Dolores. And you got Dolores on the phone. I'm like, Dolores, you probably don't remember me from a hole in the wall, but you inspired me. And that's what we have to do. We have to inspire our young people,
Yes.
the young girls coming up, to say, stay the course. Stay the course.
Yes.
Because good things happen when you're good, you believe in yourself, and you work hard.
And everything comes full circle.
Yes.
What are the chances that Dolores happened to be one of my friends? You said there was this woman who inspired me, and all of these things. And you know what? The whole time I'm going, this sounds like something Dolores would do, because she's such an inspiring person, and she's a woman of God and all that, but she sounded exactly like the person you were talking about. And then you said, this person, Dolores.
Yes.
And I'm like, Dolores Sproul Jackson? You're like, yeah. I go, she's a good friend about it. Let's pick up the phone and call her. And not only, this was also very, very odd, that she actually picked up the phone. She's busy as heck. She's busy, not even on a regular basis. If I called Dolores now, she probably would not answer the phone because she's busy. But God wanted her to hear your voice. She inspired you, and she picked up the phone, and she remembered who you were.
And to me, that's amazing. That's remarkable. And so I want her to know that sometimes you don't even think the smallest thing you can do by letting someone get a chance to do a pre-interview, and then a pre-interview with a Sinbad, that you're like, that changed my life, because that gave me a boost of confidence that said, wow, I can talk to him. Then I can talk to any client. I can talk to any business. I mean, I did business segments back in the day when I worked at Fox, but that means I can talk to anybody. I can talk to any person that's got a line of something coming out. I can talk to any celebrity, because at the end of the day, they're just like you and I.
Exactly. And you have, I mean, your lineup is endless. The
Well,
people
I
you
always say
work
we were
with.
blessed. We were blessed. My business partner and I, we decided 20 years ago, let's start this company, let's do it. And then she had done a special with Patti LaBelle at the Food Network. Patti LaBelle at that time was being a guest on my Fox morning show, and no one knew that when I was leaving, I was going to launch this company. And so I tried to play it cool. So I walk over to Patty as she's on her way to the elevator. I'm like, I'll walk her down. And so I walk her and her at the time, her PR person down. And I go, hi, Patty. I'm Sonia Armstead. I'm Rochelle's business partner. She was like, oh, and she was just so nice and so full of life, and so she too inspiring. Never a bad word. Never, you girls shouldn't do this. You should stay with the job. It's going to give you a pension. Never that. Just like, go ahead and do it. And she too, when we got this opportunity to work with her, other companies were bidding for jobs. I mean, big companies that made poor little Powerhouse look like a little, peanut. She was like, if you guys want to roll the dice and use my name and think you can get into a network selling a show, go for it. And fast forward, TV One was just starting at the time. And they said, you know what, let's do a reality show. And I like to call it responsible reality, because we would never, I mean, everyone has good days and bad days. I would never in a million years feature Patty on a bad day. But I mean, things happen, like the delivery man forgets to drop her package off and she's due to be on a plane, those kind of reality things that happen, because life is reality.
Yes.
And so she was always so supportive, always just a blessing. And the same thing with people like Emerald. Emerald was one of our clients, and I like to say still is, because we don't know. I always say divine intervention. We don't know what the good Lord's going to bring our way, but he
That's
too,
right.
just supportive. And because of that, when the ball started rolling and we started doing lots of shows with lots of different chefs and having guests on, from like the Hill Harpers to the Niecy Nashes to many of the housewives who've done the shows, and to 50 Cent, to Robin Roberts, those people were like, you're working with Patty, you've worked with Emerald, you've worked with G. Garvin or the Chef JJ's of the world. We trust you, because we know if you got their back to make them look good, you'll have our back. And that's one thing, Lisa, in the middle of this interview, if I saw something that wasn't right, I'd say, could we just cut this for 1 second? I'd say, Lisa, move that out the way, because you know what? This lives forever. And we got to be each other's girlfriends, as well as our entrepreneurial support system.
I know you would. I know you would. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about you. And you know what I love? I have to tell you, the word that comes to mind, besides beautiful, kind, authentic, I mean, you are so authentic. And, I want to talk about being authentic, which Dionne Warwick, going to talk about her in a minute. But you are so responsible.
Well, I think you have to be. I think overall, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a business owner. There's a lot of people that are depending on you, depending on your experience, depending on your opinion, and you have to do the right thing. And sometimes you want to roll the dice and try something different, but that's not necessarily the thing you should do. And you have to be responsible.
But everybody is not responsible. And I think that people think they're responsible when they're actually not. When you are, there's a difference between being a real entrepreneur and just being a person who thinks that they can be, but you show up and you show out. The reason you work with Patti LaBelle, not even for her, with Patty, right, because you have your own business.
Right.
Patti LaBelle chooses to work with you. Patti LaBelle has to look great when she shows up. And she can rely and depend on you because you are reliable. And this is one of the things I want to talk about on this show too, because entrepreneurs are listening, inventors are listening, and it's not just about developing something or developing a show or thinking that they can. There's a lot that goes into it, girl. You show up and you show out. Like you just said to me, Lisa, if something wasn't right behind you, I'd say, oh, you know what, cut.
Right.
You'd say, cut. Let's figure this out. Let's make it the best it could possibly be. Everybody is not that, Sonia.
Well, you know what I realized? I think what happens is once you're a business owner, it's like all the little nuances that you don't realize. When I worked for a big company like Fox, the great thing was there was a unit manager. So the unit manager took care of production insurance and payroll and all the little things that, making sure the rent was paid. So now you have your own company, you're renting a space from someone, you got to take care of that. You got to take care of insurance. You got to make sure that if your host or someone says something on air, as i.e., as the beef industry went after Oprah years ago, you got to make sure if you say something that's not factually right, that you are covered, or you make sure that editor edits it out, because at the end of the day, people are looking for you to trip up. Not necessarily, I mean, we live in a sue crazy society. So you got to make sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, and you got to make sure you're always smiling, you're always keeping those connections, and you're never complaining. Because at the end of the day, this is one act, and you're as good as your last show, and you're moving on to the next.
Yeah, and it comes full circle. And look where we are. Look where we are today. This is, I don't even know how many years this has been, Sonia. And I mean, we've come full circle. I hope you're still working on, we're still working on something. I don't know if we could say it. But
well, the crazy thing is, it's always, I always say it's nonstop, then it's stop. And so sometimes what I realize is you can't let life and whatever your full-time job is to interrupt your side hustle. So my side hustle for years has always been this frosting line. I mean, I created this unbelievable frosting. My husband used to think I was crazy because in the middle of the night at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm whipping up frosting. I found this organic line of flavoring, and it's like, what are you doing now? I'm like, well, I'm making banana, I'm making ginger beer, I'm making rum, I'm making all these different flavors. And then I quickly went to like a flea market and was selling them. And this one man stood at my booth and said, I don't want my wife to think the wrong thing, but this frosting is so good, I just can't leave. And I'm like, miss, if you ever open a store, I'll be your number one customer. And so that was ha ha he he. Then his niece came over and she goes, oh, I'm having a bridal shower, do you think you could do me? And I'm like, yeah, and so I did these great little desserts in martini glasses. And she was like, well, I want some banana and I want some butter rum. And so I had the ball rolling on that, and the ball was rolling. And I don't know if we got inundated with a lot of production where it just came to a halt. But when I ran back into you, I'm like, Lisa, I'm picking up the phone and I'm getting this ball rolling again. Because at the end of the day, no matter what's going on, pandemic, production, people like to celebrate. People like good food. People like frostings. People love anything that's good. And if I could pat myself on the back, that frosting's good because I brought it to your office. And you're like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting? So
I think we ate I think you must have brought me, you could have brought 10, 15, 20 containers. Oh, I think we ate all of them.
Oh my God. They were so good. And it's so funny because the line just keeps growing. There's banana cream, there's lemon cream, there's raspberry martini. And so there's an adult line. I was like, okay, Sonia, you've gone through too much not to pursue this, not to keep it moving,
But you have. Can I say this to you? You have done so much research. You've progressed so much in the line. You've done more than most.
Right.
You have your packaging. We went through a couple of different designs, right? You've named it. You've done all of the things. Everything is pretty much put in place. Your testing is done. All of those things. We don't need to give everybody all of the details. They just need to buy it when it's ready.
I just say, Betty Crocker, watch out.
That's right. Move over, Betty. Betty, move over, because this is going to be the best frosting on the market. So we can finish this up within the next few weeks, I think.
Yes.
Are your colors the same? Your color schemes the same?
Yeah, my color schemes are the same. I think I'm rocking them now, a little blue and a little pink. So because I think that's fun. It's vibrant. I think your product has got to represent how you feel about yourself. And so, so we go there. And so I also say that I want to make sure that we keep this ball rolling because I want to inspire another young lady. I have the production company. I have this going on. I want to be, I hate to say it, but I want to become a serial entrepreneur. Like my daughter who watches, she goes, Mommy, I want my own business. So what do you think you can sell, Kendall? Well, I can sell t-shirts. So we are working on her tie-dye line. So, it's a lot of work. It's going to be messy, but you know what? Okay. At the end of the day, she too is going to walk away with how to do a budget, how to budget staff, how to work in an environment that's your own.
Let's get Kendall going, honey.
Yes.
Let's get Kendall going. The tie-dye t-shirts, that's easy. Your house will be a mess. You're going to do it at your house and not at mine. But I can certainly walk her through how to get it done. Let's get some branding and labeling and all that. Let's get it done. And she's got well, she can stand on her own 2 feet.
Oh,
But
you know what? I do not worry. I see she's got a 10-year-old sass that, she always says, Mommy, it's creations by Kendall. And I go, yeah, Kendall, you're absolutely right. And it could be any kind of creation. It can be because she is a self-taught artist. She watches the YouTube tutorials on how to draw eyes and lips. And so she's gotten pretty good. So I'm like, so she goes, I can create anything. I'm like, you absolutely can, kiddo.
Okay. So did she secure the domain?
We haven't secured the domain. It's so funny because I told her over spring break, we usually go away. But, I say, thanks to the pandemic, that's going to be our spring break. We're going to start working on everything to get her up and running.
We're going to do that right now after this call.
Okay.
Literally right after this call.
All right. I love it.
Okay. Literally. Because that has to happen because you said it out loud.
We're calling it and we're claiming it. Exactly.
Yep, we're calling it, we're claiming it, and we're going to secure that domain immediately.
All right.
Immediately. And so tell me more about what you're doing. Anything that you want to market besides, of course, your frostings, which we'll definitely put out. You're working with Patti LaBelle. You're working with different chefs. You have how many 98 shows?
Well, the great thing is that, I always say everything is a blessing. Everything comes to you when it's your time to have it. There were years ago that I would think, oh man, that person got that gig. We should have a gig with a gazillion episodes. And so we were hired, I want to say 2.5 years ago. TV One developed a sister station called Clio TV, which is targeting the woman of color. And we brought a couple of chefs there and we did a few shows and we became their production partner. And so fast forward, we have several shows with them now. We have one with Chef Jannard. We have a guy named Chef JJ. We have a new girl coming out. Her name is Bryn, a young lady named Essie. We have Jake and Jazz Smollett. And we just have a lot of projects that they have felt so comfortable with saying, we trust you. We love what you do. We love you deliver for us, and let's roll. So they roll the dice on us to keep us busy from now until. But in the meantime, I think every piece of downtime, I got to keep moving forward on other things that are passionate to me.
But do you see what I'm saying to you? Okay, so everybody does not have the opportunity to do what you're doing. Right. There's so many businesses or independents out there who want to be on television, who want to create lines, etc. The difference between you and them is, number one, you may have a lot more passion. And I'm not trying to get people mad at me, but you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing because it's not easy. Nonstop, and maybe there's some luck involved. But there is business savvy. There is understanding about how to develop relationships. There's so many formulas to this, and you were in science. Right? There's so many different formulations to creating and developing relationships and trust. So you are a person who people can count on. And I think when Patti LaBelle looks you up, when she puts you on speed dial, number one, speed dial, she's like, I'm calling Sonia because I know I can rely on her. I know I can trust her. I know she's going to show up and show out. I think so that happens, number one, and everybody doesn't always get that, Sonia. So I'm going to ask you to speak to the entrepreneur out there, the inventor out there who thinks it's so easy to just, start a business and run a business and have somebody else do it for them and all of those things that they fantasize about. That's really not real. It's not. What does it take?
Well,
what do you say to the entrepreneur, the inventor out there who's ready to give up or doesn't want to put in the time and the effort? What do you say?
First of all, I have to think you have to believe in what you do. You have to, whether it's a television production company, whether it's a product, an item, a food item, you have to say, wow, this is good. And I like what I do. And you got to be dedicated. You have to also never take no for an answer. And I think you have to ride that fine line. It's not being a pest because you are going to get no's. And so if 10 people tell you no, you move on because all you need is that one yes. And so you never take no for an answer. But also remember, there's no such thing as an overnight sensation. Like I started this frosting 30 years ago. 30 years ago and now I'm really dating myself. When I was in high school, we took something called home economics. Home economics. Now they probably call it culinary creations or something, but
Yo, probably something very fancy.
so it was home economics, and you were going to learn how to cook and sew. I guess because there were some girls who were going to just go get their MRS, their misses in life, which is fine, totally fine.
Yeah.
But you took that home economics course, and then I came home and I was like, oh, I'm going to cook, and I cooked all the time for the family because I liked doing it. It made me happy. So when you find something that you like and something that you believe in, whether it's a product, whether it's a company, you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. You got to talk to people. You got to tell people about it. I mean, did I want to be at a fair in 100-degree weather with ice coolers and chests with frosting? Absolutely not. But guess what? It created a notebook for me with names of emails and doing bridal showers and baby showers and things of that nature. I was the serial entrepreneur at the when I worked at Fox Television. I sold cakes because we were at a place in life where we couldn't give people raises, cutbacks like we see now. So I was like, you know what? Let me make this staff happy. I started bringing in cakes at 3:00 in the morning, and at our 10:00 meeting, would take the cakes out, and then someone walked over to me and said, "I would never confess this in public, but your cakes are better than my grandmother's." And I said, "That's between you and I." And so you got to believe in what you do. So people were coming to my house from New York because you're not allowed to sell on property. So they would come to my house on the weekend and buy cakes from me. And at one point I'm like, why is my checkbook not got so much more money in it at the end of the month? And I want to pay my parking garage fee because I was selling cakes, crazy selling cakes. And so you believe in yourself. That entrepreneur out there has got to say, I can do it. It's not going to be easy. And again, there's no such thing as an overnight sensation. They think that Beyonce, oh, she's so lucky she made it. Well, no, she was dancing in her garage at 8, 9, or 10. She was going to vocal lessons. She was singing at the talent pageants and anything else that you could do to help, cultivate that craft that you want. You have to do it. I mean, do you think sometimes I feel like baking a cake or experimenting at 2:00 in the morning? No, but that's quiet time. That's the house is sleep. And then I'll bring it over and I'll call my brothers and sisters and say, okay, guys, I want you to taste this pistachio ice. And they're like, really, you made this? I'm like, yeah, I made this, So you have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing forward. And again, not to be obnoxious about not taking no for an answer, but believing in yourself. And again, what's for you is for you. And you just have to take your time, take the steps, make connections, and just be good to anyone you meet, because it does come back full circle. Because that person that you're shrugging off because they're only 20 something, believe you me, in 10 years, you'll be knocking on their door saying, oh, remember me? Yeah, I didn't know you were going to end up being the person that approves recipes or approves books. I need you. So you always have to be kind to people because it comes full circle.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, look at Dolores. Look at Dolores.
Exactly.
Running Kelly and Ryan show.
Exactly.
Producer.
And she's been there and she's been there. And so I do. I mean, I look at that and I say, had I never had the guts to walk up to her and say, can I do more than answer the phone? Because you have to ask. Someone's not going to walk up to you and say, hey, you kids, you got it. I want to take you into my wing. You have to be able to walk up and ask and say, I want to learn more. Can I trail you? And sometimes trailing you means, can I work after hours? Can I come with you on the weekend when you go shoot that story? Because I want to see what a cameraman does. I want to see how he sets up lighting. I want to see how you structure your questions and how you vibe off of that person who's giving you an answer.
Who taught you that, Sonia? Where did you get that from? Because everybody doesn't have that. Was that innate?
I think that was innate.
Your grandmother just said you got to do, or was it just who you are? Because sometimes I think it's the person you are bred or led to be.
I think what happens is you see certain things in life. So I was the youngest of 5, hung under my mother and my aunts a lot, hung out in the kitchen because my mother had rules. I wasn't hanging out with my 16-year-old sister because there was an age gap. And my mother's like, she's got her friends, you find your age. And so I stayed in the house a lot. You listen to conversations. Years ago, my father had his own, he used to call it a shoe shine parlor. And then you played pool there. He had his own business. My grandmother, which I didn't find out until after she passed away, she had a little restaurant business where she cooked dinners and made dinners for the truckers because they lived on a busy street where truck drivers drove up and down. So she sold dinners. And so there was an entrepreneurial spirit, I think, within the family. My grandmother, God bless her, and she passed away. She was 97 years old and she had 10 houses.
What?
So I think when you see that, she owned apartments, she owned land. So when you see that, I don't necessarily think it's taught to you. You're just sitting there. It's like my daughter saying, "Mommy, I want my own business too."
It's innate.
It's innate. So you see it, and you have to feed it too. Like I know my daughter's strengths when it comes to school. I know her weaknesses. We get a tutor for the things I think she can do better in. But I also see there's a creative side. She designs a dress. I call her Donna Karen Black because she designs a dress, and mine looks old fashioned, but hers has patterns and has all kind of color. And I'm like, wow, that's her gift. And so to say to me, I want to make tie dye and sell it. I think she wants to have her own money too, so she can not stop asking me, can I buy this? Can I? And I want to encourage that. I want to encourage also, which I say to all my young girls, stay at home when you get out of college, save your money. And so when you do leave the nest, buy a piece of property. So those are all
it's definitely a burning desire. I think that it does take, I'm not saying that people who are not entrepreneurs are not special people, but it takes a special kind of person, something, because everybody cannot be an entrepreneur. You just can't. Some of my family, a lot of my family they're entrepreneurs. My brother is born to be an entrepreneur, 100%. Some people in my family say, okay, do you realize everyone's not an entrepreneur? Stop pushing it. Stop pushing that whole thing. But it's the way I was born and bred. My parents 100% were. They worked corporate jobs, but they always, I found out later on, had a side hustle. My parents always sold health insurance, I didn't even realize this until I was older. Even after my father passed away, we got a couple of $1,000s because it was my father sold life insurance to people, and we got like a little bit of a check from people he was getting residuals.
Yes.
What? So, and they didn't even talk about it, but I mean, they took care of us. They didn't always say, what they did, but they came home, they had normal lives and everything else, but they were also entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
My grandmother was a seamstress. My aunt was a seamstress. They made clothes and dresses for people in Queens and Kings and blah, 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 in Jamaica. And, that's just who they were. And it's passed down. And I think we as women of color, especially, I think that just we have this innate power, this innate ability to just create,
and juggle, amazing. and multitask. Yeah, I mean, I look at my business partner. She too, like we run the company. She and her husband have a restaurant. They juggle that together, and it's sort of like, whoo! I was sitting up, Sonia, because we're doing something new at the restaurant. I'm like, wow, okay. And so you juggle, and she too has a 12-year-old, and she has a 14-year-old. So you figure it out, and it's funny because people say to me, so when are you going to retire? Are you going to be retiring in the next 10 or 15 years? And I'm like, well, I don't know if the word retire is really the word to use. I might slow down, or I might create, or something I keep saying I have in the works of my sweets boutique. I may have that, and I may be running that, but I also want to have the flexibility to say to someone, hold down the fort. I'm going to go over to Europe for a week or 2 weeks, or I'm going to go on a vacation, or whatever it is. So I think I'll always work because I don't think I can ever not work. But I also wanted to drive home that point to young girls, like, find your passion, do it. I have a friend whose daughter said to me, I didn't do too well in math. I got a C. I went from a B to a C. I'm having trouble. And I said, Miss Sonia got C's the whole time she had math. Now, I'm not bragging about a C, but I did my best. I mean, there was one year that I struggled through math. That's why I don't beat my daughter up. And I got the smartest kid in school to tutor me before final exams. And it wasn't that I couldn't get it. He just had such a simplistic way of explaining it that, and I got an A on the exam. And the teacher goes, you got an A. You struggled all year ago. Because David was the go-to guy at that time to get it, to help me get it right. So I didn't want to give up. And that's what I say. Don't give up. Follow your dreams. I said, Miss Sonia didn't turn out half bad. She got some C's in life, but I'd rather be average in school and well-rounded in every other place in my life than to sit back and say, I'm straight A's, but I can't function personally. I can't have a conversation with the inventress. You know what I mean?
And I'm so proud of you, and I love you. And I just, you make me smile.
Thank you.
Every time we're together. Every time we're together, without fail. So I'm going to ask you, honey, What is the song that inspires you when you're driving down the road that makes you happy? Because I got to ask you what your song is. What's that song? Could be many.
And there are many. It depends on my mood, but I always got to keep it real for my girl. I got a new attitude, and every day that new attitude is, you can go to bed with having a terrible day, and you got to wake up and say, I got a new attitude. You gotta feel good from your head to your shoes. And and no matter what's going on, whether it's production, whether it's icing, whether it's a sick family member, I take care of my mom and my sister takes care of you just have to have a good attitude. And if you lead life with that good attitude, everything else falls into place.
You are so right. You are so right. And just show me your happy dance.
Oh, happy dance is here. My happy dance is just when I'm walking down the street. That's my happy dance, because I have like a fast walk, a pep in my step. Listen, life is good. I love life. And I don't want to pretend that I don't have bad days and rough days, because we're COVID survivors here. We are, jobs have fluctuated here. But at the end of the day, there are things you can't control, and you just got to keep on keeping on. That's it.
You have made my day.
Oh, Lisa, thank you so much.
You have made my day, girl. What can we promote anything? Is there anything you want us to talk about that we can shout out? Your social media?
Always like to shout out, because the main thrust and the main bread and butter for Sonia is Powerhouse Productions. We are the production arm for Clio TV. We have shows. Some mornings you will turn on Clio TV, which is carried on Verizon, Comcast, DirecTV. You can turn on at 9 o'clock in the morning, and our programming goes from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening, because you can see G. Garvin on there. You can see Chef JJ on there. You can see Chef Jannard. He's got a show called The Remix. You can see Jake and Jazz. I mean, we fill a television block on a network that, for girls of color, it's unheard of. And a quick story, there was a young lady on social media, and I was never big on social media. And she posted, I see all these African-American chefs and I hear about them, but where can we find them? Where can we find a production company? And someone said, you must not know about Powerhouse. And it was not on the TV One or the Clio chat line. It was something totally, and she tuned in and she was blown away. She goes, oh my God, girls who look like me are doing the darn thing. So listen, I couldn't do it by myself. I do. My business partner, Rochelle, and I, we are yin and yang. She can go in there, and we call her the talent whisperer, because she can go in there and she can talk to the talent when they're having a bad day and say, listen, this is all we need to think about. This is all we need to get out of you for today, and we'll call it a wrap. And so we do have a good, we have a good vibe, because she can go into a client, and not necessarily a client, maybe to an executive, and beat the executive over the head. And then I can say, I know that hurt. Here's an ice pack. So we are good cop, bad cop in so many ways. And that's why we get along. We see each other sometimes more than we see our husbands. And we just vibe. We vibe. And that's another thing. If you want to start a business and you don't want to do it by yourself, or if you find someone who has a skill set that would bring your company, to the point where it needs to be, it's okay to have a business partner, because you can't do everything. We vibe off of each other. When I was down and out and not feeling well, she holds the fort down. When she's down and out and not feeling well, I hold the fort down.
You got to find that right business partner, though, girl. You're very blessed.
Yes.
Very blessed, because everybody's not the right partner for you.
Yes, you're right. And we work it out, and we have our moments. Some days she's having a moment and I can see it, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to my office and I'll check in through, because we have a connecting door. You okay in there, girl? And she's fine. Some days I walk in and shut my door, and she'll like, okay, Sonia walked in and shut her door, and it's quiet in there. I better not say anything to her. And she'll say, Sonia, you've been in there for 3 hours now. What you working on? I'm like, no, well, I'm working on some insurance stuff, and then we'll get together and we'll vent, and she'll hear about my problems. I'll hear about her problems, and okay, well, let's move on. I mean, we're family.
After all these years, you're still partners.
Yes.
And at Powerhouse Productions, I want people to look you up. Is it just food, Sonia, or
no, we are a lifestyle boutique company. It's powerhouseproductions.tv. We are lifestyle. We do food, we do fitness, we do fashion, we do home renovations, and we do a show where we go in and we don't knock down walls, but we will transform your space, and you're like, you felt like the walls were knocked down by the time our team finishes. So we run the gamut of anything that falls under the lifestyle TV umbrella.
I think I'm going to come on set with you one of these days. When all of this is over,
Yes.
we get our shots. I've said this to you before. I want to come and see you in action, 100%. I want to see you in action mode. You're always in action mode when I talk with you, but I want to see you in real action mode.
Well, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, we're the yin and the yang. We vibe off of each other. We come on, we do what we have to do to get the job done.
You're amazing, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you. Will you come back again?
I will. And you know what? Also use me, because I've got a lot of connections. I got a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs, because I think what happens is birds of a feather flock together. And so we kind of vibe off of each other. There's people I know who have their own PR companies, people that have their own scarves and clothing lines and things of that nature. So we will vibe. You say the word and I will give everybody's name and number to you.
Well, we want to give people opportunities, and that's what we're about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I talk about people of color and all that stuff, but we're women, we're men, we're entrepreneurs. Let's just continue to lift each other up. I'm here to do that 100%.
Yes. Well, listen, I've gone to your events, Lisa, and I've seen the great dynamic speakers you have. I've seen the vendors. I've seen every woman who's got a card company or a skincare company or a makeup line. And you're like, you know what? Just come here, set up. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to get yourself out there and get exposure.
Yep.
Nobody does that, Lisa.
And it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to lift each other up and build each other up. It's okay to do it.
It comes back to you. It does.
And it's okay. I mean, I think that we're supposed, you know how I feel about it. We're supposed to do it.
That's our job.
We're not doing it because we're looking to receive anything back. God always gives back, but we're not looking to receive anything back.
I know.
Sonia, girl, I love you. You are so blasted amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you.
I appreciate you too. We'll talk soon, sweetheart.
Okay. Thank you. Love you. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Love you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'm melting. I'm elated. That was an incredible, incredible conversation with my girlfriend, Sonia Armstead. She never ceases to amaze me. Sonia, girl, keep on doing what you're doing. She just keeps coming back and showing me more things. And she helps me to grow in myself. Believe it or not, I keep on growing every time Sonia and I have a conversation. Just amazing, amazing, amazing. So listen, guys, if you ever want to be on my show, please make sure you reach out to me. Email me, info@inventingatoz.com. My website, inventingatoz.com. If you have a product or a business, anything you want to showcase, just bring it back here. So make sure you like, subscribe, share with Mrs. Smith next door. I use Mrs. Smith's name all the time, Mrs. Smith. So make sure you keep on watching. Again, YouTube, subscribe on all of the major podcasts and social media platforms. Can't wait to see you again. Keep on lifting each other up, 2 hands at a time. And sometimes you got to use that foot. Until next time.